Russo, you were gone last week. Jesse and I attacked this Mike Babcock story. It was just kind of, was it breaking, Jesse? It was just kind of, it was just kind of coming out. And there was a really good looking Italian guy on this show who kept saying, this can't be true. There's no way someone is crazy enough to be given a second chance, and so early in that second chance, push his luck to a point where he might lose his job. I don't want to say that guy's name. He may be one of the hosts of this show, but holy shit, was I ever wrong. So since then, a lot has happened.
Yeah. Well, for the record, I'm Italian too, but I knew you weren't talking about me when you said good looking guy.
Yes. That's how I differentiated the two.
Yeah. Yep. But us people that end our last names with vowels need to stick together, Rob. So I'm not going to rip into you too much. I'll be in it, so let me give it to you from my standpoint. So we get to the first day of the NHL media tour last week, first or second day, I can't even remember. And this immediately breaks. I see Aaron Portzline's tweet and kind of quickly catch up. And I immediately see Ron Hainsey, and Pierre LeBrun and I went up to him, and Ron, basically discounted it and said that he did some checking and didn't think it was a big deal. The NHL and the NHLPA essentially right in front of us met Bill Daly and Ron Hainsey. And when we got Bill Daly soon after this broke, Bill said that it was a misconception. But as I continued to hear things swirling, I remember talking to Aaron Portzline a couple days later and told him some of the stuff I was hearing. And I said to him, I don't think he's going to last the weekend, because I knew they had the Monday media day, and I just could not see how they're going to put Mike Babcock in front here. I had talked to Paul Bissonnette as well on Friday as well, and kind of compared notes with him. But this was a total invasion of privacy. Now, clearly, some of the veterans didn't think it was a big deal, but I don't think what he did to players like Boone Jenner and Johnny Gaudreau, who are two of the players that publicly have talked to how it wasn't a big deal to them, are the same that he did to some of the young guys. And I don't want to mention names, but it's pretty obvious who some of the important young guys are on the Columbus Blue Jackets. And the way that I understand it, he took their phones and essentially rifled through it. And that is beyond inappropriate. And I don't buy for a second that Mike Babcock has learned any lessons from the last 4 years being out of the game. I think that he clumsily handled this situation. I don't want to try to sit there and say that he did this with malice, but he certainly was not acting bright here and put players in uncomfortable spots and uncomfortable positions that they had no reason to be in. And I think this ended the only way it did. And we could talk what it means for John Davidson and Jarmo Kekäläinen in a second. But I just think that Mike Babcock should never coach again in this league. It is just painfully obvious that he just hasn't learned anything. And I do now wonder what it means for second chances for guys like Stan Bowman and Joel Quenneville. And
that's one of the questions I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I mean, talk about that in a second as well.
Yeah. Jesse?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. It feels like there's like almost a wave of second chances coming, which is sad that there have to be that many guys that need second chances. But the fact that this went as poorly as it went, as quickly as it went, is shocking. Honestly, like I shouldn't be surprised that this happened, but I am surprised that he could do this quickly before even coaching a game, before even getting on the ice with the team.
Yeah. He
has already proven, like Mike said, that he hasn't learned anything in this time without being around hockey. It's like I said, I shouldn't be surprised, but I am. It's shocking to me that this would happen this quickly.
It's a debate I've been having for a while now since this all came out. Is this arrogance, or is this you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Because like I said, my whole basis on thinking that it was probably blown out of proportion was the fact that no one is dumb enough to do this. I think I used this example last week, Jesse. It's like robbing a bank, going to jail for it, and the day you get released from jail, you go and rob a bank again. Like it was so quick. Had this happened a year from now or 2 years from now, I would say, oh, Babcock up to his old tricks. This was the initial meetings with the team. I don't understand how this could happen. Is this a fact that, like, do you genuinely think that maybe Mike Babcock is even surprised, saying, I didn't do anything, I was just trying to get to know them, not realizing just how inappropriate this is?
Yeah, I just think that a leopard can change its spots. I mean, that's one of my favorite sayings. If he shows you, that's who he is. And he has shown to be this throughout his career, and it's just started to come out the last couple of years. The stuff that he did to Mitch Marner, Johan Friends, and I'm sure scores of other people. This was just so beyond the pale, and I don't buy for 1 second. And to be totally honest, I don't know Mike Babcock very well, and I've covered this league for a long, long time. But I really don't know him very well. I've had really no personal dealings with him other than scrums and things like that. So I don't want to characterize this person, but I don't buy for 1 second that this was to get to know their families better. I mean, that is absolute bullshit. If you want to know what the kid's girlfriend looks like, or that person's wife looks like, or who their mom and dad is, you ask them. You say, oh, and you give them the opportunity. Oh, here they are. But to sit there and to go through their phones and to make comments like this is how you prepare for a hockey season, which is some of the lines that I heard that he said, and things like that. Absolutely putting people on the spot. It's just so ridiculous. And it's it. I mean, he is not going to coach again. Nobody in their right mind would
No
ever hire
way.
him.
No way. Yeah. So you touched on this, Russo, a second ago, but John Davidson, Jarmo Kekäläinen. I mean, Davidson at the press conference, I want to read the quote exactly. I am very disappointed. We went through the process earlier in the summer prior to hiring Mike Babcock as our head coach, but we got it wrong, and that's on us. I can promise you we will learn from this going forward. I also understand the criticism we're getting. It is deserved. Jesse, we'll start with you because this isn't we missed something. This isn't like, oh man, we didn't know that 10 years ago so-and-so did this. This was out in the open for everyone to see. When Mike Babcock was hired, we all kind of went, what? So can you accept a mea culpa here? Can you accept him saying, we got it wrong, we'll be better? Or is this definitely going to be a black mark on both of their records right now?
I mean, I think it's definitely better that he came out and said we got this wrong. I think that's the right thing to say because they clearly did, but it doesn't completely wash away the choice to hire him over. I just can't get over how we keep doing this in the NHL. Like there are so many brilliant people around hockey that could deserve one of these 32 head coaching jobs, and yet they still choose to give it to someone who they know, like you said, this isn't something that came out as a surprise. They knew that he was this way, and he was this way immediately right after they hired him. I don't give them a complete pass for it just because they said that they were wrong, but it makes me feel a little better about it that they came out and said, this is on us. We made the wrong choice here.
Yeah, I'm conflicted because I have personal relationships with both of them. Get along with Jarmo really well. I've known JD forever, and I'm very tight with him. In fact, some of the best advice I've ever gotten in this business as a sports writer came from JD in the early 2000s on something I was dealing with in Florida, covering Mike Keenan. And so I know the hearts of these guys, and they're good people. But this one, this felt like an unnecessary hire at the very beginning. I know they're both under pressure. For right now, getting this Blue Jackets to a point where they are going to be true contenders in a very tough conference and division. And I think that that's probably why they went out and made this move. And they both made the decision to bring him in here. And it just felt like that was a decision. I watched every minute of the press conference. I thought they were both extremely accountable. One of the reporters asked JD about all the reporters that at the time said that this was going to be a potential problem. And he actually said maybe they were right. So I think that they realize this has got to be a disturbing time for both of them, and how to have this implode on them on the eve of training camp, to have to sit there and scramble to hire a coach on the eve of training camp just doesn't happen in the National Hockey League. And so they've got to, now it'll be really interesting to see how the Blue Jackets respond to this.
And everybody else too. You touched on this earlier with Joel Quenneville. I mean, I know it's a completely different situation as to why they were not coaching in the National Hockey League, but you've got to be more reluctant to give anybody a second chance after what we've seen over this last week. I mean, how often do we ever talk about a coach leaving a post before practice number one? Like it's head
well,
shit.
And that to me is the biggest thing. Nobody wants to be in the position that JD and Jarmo were in this week. And are you going to really put your life on the line to hire Joel and Stan, who are different situations and why they're both not in the business. Like, to me, Joel just did the really disgusting thing. He put winning above everything, even to the point that afterwards wrote basically a recommendation for this dirtbag. So I think that it's like a different plateau, the two of them. But Bill Peters, Mike Babcock's disciple, there's a great example. Like, are you as a owner, as a GM, gonna put yourself in a position to hire one of these people after what just happened in Columbus, whether it's deserved or not? And as you said, Rob, it's different situations. But as Jesse said, there's tons of great applicants out there. And for any of these jobs, men, women, everybody, in terms of the number of possible people that could eventually coach an NHL team or be part of an NHL team. And are you really going to now put your career and life on the line to essentially, put somebody that is a liability? And Mike Babcock was always going to be a liability here. And the other thing that I think that they discounted, Jarmo and JD, is just how many people in this league don't like Mike. So they're going to jump almost enthusiastically to the forefront to sit there and out anything he does that's seemingly untoward. And the other thing that Columbus has got to do a better job, and everybody's got to do a better job, is just vetting candidates. Like, I know Jarmo says that he did his due diligence to an exhaustive measure, but I guarantee he didn't talk to Mitch Marner or Johan Franzen or some of these other people that might have been actually played for him and affected by him. And it's very different to talk to a guy that used to be a colleague on the bench or somebody in the front office than a player that has been affected in a negative way by Mike.
I think what Rob brought up is a great point of, like, when other, like, GMs and presidents and owners around the league, when they see this happen and blow up as quickly as it did, it makes it real. Like, when you're deciding whether you want to give someone a second chance, they all knew that, like, that there's a risk involved with that. But now, having watched this blow up that quickly on the day before training camp, I think it makes the consequences of one of those hires a lot more real. And I think they're going to think harder about hiring one of those other guys to give them a second chance than they would have prior to this, just because when you see something happen right in front of you like that, it's the realness of it. It carries a little more weight than I think prior to all this happening.
Yeah. I don't want to go through that. Is basically what every GM in the league is saying right now. But obviously, we'll keep an eye on this. This is not going away. I think the ramifications of this are going to be really interesting.